There's this religious so-called financial guru named Dave Ramsey. I honestly can't stand the guy. He has made a living out of couching his mediocre financial advice as religiously based and something that God favors. And he wrote a new book, and he went on the 700 Club with Pat Robertson. And Pat Robertson interviewed him. It was obviously a complete softball interview, just absolutely teeing them up for Dave Ramsey to swing for the fences on. And Dave Ramsey actually said that Jesus is okay with people being rich and they can still go to heaven. This is what Dave Ramsey had to say.
Well, it's a terrific book. It's a good read, and Dave, I must say it's biblically sound all the way through. There's a bunch of heresy going around. Talk about some of those heresies. Those people are teaching heresy, and this is solid, what you've got here in this book. I really commend it.
Well, thank you, Pat. Coming from you, that's a huge compliment. I really appreciate it. The biggest one I get from folks, based on their political agenda, not really their biblical knowledge, is that if a camel can't get through the eye of a needle, then the rich man can't get into heaven. And if that's the case, then Jesus' blood that was spilled at Calvary isn't powerful enough to get a rich man into heaven. I think that's called heresy. I'm pretty sure it is. Look it up. And so when you start putting limits on the power of the cross and limits on the power of the grace that is extended to us from the Father through the Son based on someone's wealth, then that's Gnosticism. That's the worship of spirit versus materialism versus the worship orthodoxy, from an orthodoxy standpoint, of actually what happened at the cross. And so what that means is someone just doesn't understand the Bible. They're not mean, they just don't understand. We've got a lot of biblical illiteracy out there, and people haven't walked through and taught, because the Bible's not inconsistent. It says the diligent prosper. And that means that if you're diligent, if you work hard and you save your money, you're going to have some money. That's a simple thing. And you haven't done something wrong, and that doesn't preempt you from heaven. And to say that is heresy.
What on earth is Dave Ramsey talking about here, Lewis? If Max von Sydow's character in Hannah and Her Sisters could be channeled here, if Jesus returned and saw what was being done in his name, he would not be able to stop vomiting. We've seen less blatant examples of just using scripture to further your political beliefs or your business goals or your personal biases. This is one of the most egregious examples. Dave Ramsey just explaining why it's okay, why God and Jesus and whoever else is under that umbrella would want people to buy his books and learn about how to be rich. And earlier in the interview, he goes on what's just an insane explanation of how all the money that people have, Lewis, it's not their money, okay? It's God's money. And God decides who gets to use his money while they're alive. I mean, I've not heard such a perversion and misuse of supposed sacred texts for a long time.
I think, yes, I think generally that financial advice and religious teachings should be separate. But extremely religious people tie everything into their religious text, and they'll find some way to explain or give advice on anything based on that text.
And putting aside even the religious stuff, Dave Ramsey really doesn't give good financial advice. One of his big things is if you put $100 a week or a month away for 40 years, from age 30 until 70, you'll be a millionaire. And I said, let me look into those numbers. He assumes a net 12% return from the stock market. And even though it's true that there are 20-year periods where the stock market returned about 12% annually, there are not 40-year periods where that's the case. He just says, though, that's all you need to do. 12% is what you're going to get. It's just not accurate at all. Dave Ramsey tells people that if they're in the process of paying off debt, $1,000 emergency fund is what they need in case something goes wrong. Completely disagree. If you don't have a $1,000 emergency fund, getting to $1,000 is obviously priority number one, but really an emergency fund should cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses in case you have a period of 3 to 6 months during which you're not earning any income. This goes on and on. Dave Ramsey is just not a guy you should be listening to when it comes to financial advice. And the fact that he's drawing all of these people in under the guise of him being a religious, a godly financial advisor is just straight up snake oil salesman.
It is, and he's being put up on a pedestal by guys like Pat Robertson and other, popular Christian, whatever you want to call them. And this is really helping his popularity.
Absolutely. He also tells people that they should not be using credit cards, that you should just cut up your credit cards. And the reality is, if you're responsible, credit cards are a tool to be used. And it could be a tool to be used to get free travel by using airline miles. It's a tool that can be used to get cash back. I mean, really, the idea of just cut up your credit cards, period, that's also just bad advice. It's just bad advice all around, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to join us on Reddit, davidpakman.com/Reddit, REDDIT. Back after this.